Hello, everybody. We are going to start now. My name is Andrew Tsensiruk. I'm an advisor to American Council's innovation program. And welcome to American Council's EdTech Innovation webinar series. Today we have a special speaker with us who's joining from Village Capital, Nasir Qadree, who's serves as Director of Education Programs at Village Capital. Nasir has an extensive experience in EdTech. He comes from a private sector experience. He previously worked at Goldman Sachs as an analyst. He also was a fellow, Education Pioneer Fellow at the Connecticut State Department of Education, focusing on improving digital learning and infrastructure. And he is a good friend of American Councils. He has previously met with our EdTech startups from Eastern Europe. So with that, welcome, Nasir.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and Ivan and Adrian. Thank you so much for having me back. It's been a pleasure. I was not going to turn down the opportunity to speak to your great companies. We do not at Village Capital shamefully we don't get a chance to meet entrepreneurs from Eastern Europe as much as we would like. So this is my outlet to better understanding and getting a sense of the companies that are out there and the challenges you're working on within your respective regions. So really excited for this conversation.
Yes, we are very, very, very glad to have you here. So this webinar will have a little bit of different format. In the past, we had a more presentation format. This is going to be virtual Q&A discussion, and Nasir is open to share his experience and useful tips. He has worked for many years.
Sure.
How did you get into education technology, working with EdTech?
Sure. So yeah, I definitely would love for this to be more interactive than a presentation. I don't dilute presentations at all, but I do would love for you to jump in and ask questions throughout our conversation. So for me, I knew at the core that that education was at the foundation, the core of revitalizing our most impacted communities as it relates to helping citizens have a prosperous life, as sappy as that may sound. And I started my career off in the private sector, as you spoke, and at Goldman Sachs, mainly just to learn some core skills. And from there, I helped found a nonprofit focusing on first-generation college students. And that in itself helped me, allow me to better understand the key challenges that are happening in education, more specifically, students who come from our most impacted, vulnerable communities, both here in the US, but also in emerging markets. And so from then I had a chance to work in New Jersey, things that are probably not even on my bio. Worked in New Jersey for former mayor and now Senator Cory Booker, which led to an appointment role / education pioneer fellowship at the Connecticut State Department of Education, leading the state's digital learning and infrastructure strategy. I've also invested in a coffee shop, which actually where the entrepreneurial mindset actually started coming from. Friends and I invested in 2 New York City coffee shops, which the ideal was entrepreneurs, especially startups, their office space is either at home or in a coffee shop. And so what better way to invest in a coffee shop that brings together entrepreneurs that are solving big problems. And we purposely kind of themed our coffee shop around companies that are mission driven, such as education, healthcare, transportation, focusing on economic development, et cetera. And then after getting exposure to being more as a personal investor, as well as getting government experience, understanding what's happening on the ground at a more micro level, I thought it would be a great idea to kind of couple my skill set coming from the private sector, as well as an investor and understanding different challenges that are happening in the local our most impacted communities, not only in Connecticut at that point, but also across the country, and began to also kind of expose myself and in other countries that are just as well impacted, but also have that illustrated, I would call, islands of excellence, different areas that different strategies that they've implemented that could be correlated to America education system, both in K-12, post-secondary, and within the workforce. And that led to an appointment role at Village Capital, where now I lead for the past 2 years. Let me get this straight. For the past 2 years, I've led the education practice and investments, but as of beginning January 1, my title has now changed as the economic opportunity lead. So not only education, but also healthcare and supporting financial inclusion, fintech companies as well. So just a bit of a shameful plug there.
Interesting, yes. So Village Capital, can you tell us a bit more about programs that you offer for startups?
Mm-hmm.
There, what are the resources available for this cohort that American councils that we have startups that applied for the program? We have a diverse group of companies at different stages. Some are early stages that are going through customer discovery,
sure,
and building an MVP. There are some that raised over $1 million and already more established startups. So many of them are interested in entering the US market.
mm-hmm.
And could you please tell us what are what programs and resources are available for international EdTech founders as they consider entering the US market?
Sure. So Village Capital, if I can take a step back and really kind of shape and frame who we are, at the core, we are an investment firm, a very unique investment firm where we source, we train, and we invest in high-growth entrepreneurs solving global problems. We do a great job, particularly in our education practice, and sourcing great companies in a particular region. So, from an international perspective, we are sourcing companies that are focusing on a very, very particular problem. So, for the next few years, for example, we will, source companies that are building solutions that are bridging the skills gap between education and employment. And so we will then take these 8 to 12 entrepreneurs, and you will go through what we call a venture development program that will help you become investment ready. And that at its core is the crux of our training program. Now, what's also interesting about our training program is the fact that, again, we are an investment firm, but the way we invest in companies is actually putting the capital in the hands of the entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs are now the investors. And if you think about any other venture capital firm in the world, not one, I think we're actually the only investment firm that actually decides that maybe Nasir, maybe our entire team is not best suited to make the investments, but the entrepreneurs, those who are closest to the problem, are most suited to make the investment. So at the end of the program, you will go through a 3 to 4 month in-person training program. Look at it more of an executive MBA-like program where the first month you're with your cohort for a week, you go back home, and then the second month you're back with your cohort. The third month you are the last workshop you're with your cohort. And this is a perfect time where you're getting varnished feedback from entrepreneurs that are your cohort mates that are solving very similar problems like you. They're going through similar challenges, much like you, not only in terms of understanding the market, but also just building a business, understanding finding the right talent for your team, understanding your go-to-market strategy, understanding how to who to raise capital for. Are you venture cap? Should you be venture back, or should you continue to operate? In the way you are succeeding is through increasing your revenue. So we can dive deep into that later in the conversation, but just being very clear that not every EdTech company is a venture-backed company. So to be very clear, so at the end of the program, the companies do a peer ranking assessment where the top 2 peer ranked companies that come out of this peer ranking assessment receive seed investment from VilCap Investments, which is a for-profit affiliate fund, an $18 million fund that's backed by players like Steve Case and Mitch and Frida Kapoor, and amongst 29 other limited partners that believe in this peer review model. And so what we found is that this actually what we call democratized entrepreneurship. It levels the playing field for everyone. If you look at today's EdTech entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in general, those who are getting invested, it's actually lopsided and it's not fair for entrepreneurs. Today, in the world, under 7% of your traditional venture capital portfolio is women-led. Even more of a travesty, under 2% of venture capital is led by minorities. I think that's wrong. And what you're saying, if you look at that, you can say that these entrepreneurs are not getting a fair shot. Village Capital is proud to be very intentional and having diversity and inclusion at its core. 42% of our portfolio today is women-led. 24% is minority-led companies, and that ranges from not only education but our 4 other sectors, and that's also around across the globe. So I would and the great thing about since I last came, I'll end here and get Andrew's reactions, is that we've expanded to Eastern Europe. We have an office now in London, and his main name is Chris Cusack, and his main focus is to really broaden our lenses to revitalizing communities and seeking EdTech entrepreneurs, particularly that are solving problems that need to be addressed. So we're really excited to have a larger footprint in Eastern Europe.
Congratulations on the expansion. It's Eastern Europe is an unexplored market. There's lots of entrepreneurs, and innovation is not limited to Silicon Valley or places that are the bigger cities. So let's talk a little bit more about the EdTech market in the United States.
Sure.
As someone who is very active in this space, as someone who's you just returned from a New York EdTech week, and so it will be interesting for our startups to learn what are some of the EdTech trends that you observe, especially which market segments have you seen the most growth and investments in recent time?
Yeah, so over the past 4 years, education technology investors have been fairly active, and I think they're going to continue to be active. When you think about where the problems entrepreneurs are solving today, it ranges from, you can look at it in 3 buckets: K-12, post-secondary, and workforce. And if you break down each of those 3 sectors and think about different subsectors, like in K-12, early child education, or professional development for teachers, or rethinking the incentives for teachers, or preparing our most vulnerable children for college or college and career readiness. And higher ed is alternative to higher education. The cost of higher ed is not decreasing anytime soon. How can we look at other options for students as they prepare for the workforce? You think about the admissions process is become a challenge. In the workforce, you think about the future of work. The workforce is changing. People operations, getting rid of and rethinking the recruiting and HR process. And so this is a $6 billion market and opportunity and global, and opportunity for entrepreneurs to really make an impact, either disrupt an existing market or creating their own market. I think that when you think as an entrepreneur or as an investor, we look at it, we want to know whether or not if those entrepreneurs are actually are making an impact in either one of those 2 buckets, either an existing market or a disrupting or creating their own market. In terms of what over the past, I can't say this, for those who are working on more post-secondary to workforce, there's been a 30 to 40% increase in investments happening more so in the post-secondary to workforce space versus your K-12 space, here in the US, that is. And so there's considerably a huge amount of entrepreneurs, but also investment capital going into both early stage and Series A, mainly in the early stage space. It's an incredible amount of investment. And so I'm happy to give some examples of what I'm seeing in terms of companies and what they're doing, but definitely wanted to kind of glean on the overall $6 billion market, exactly where investors are actually focusing their attention on, and where are the biggest opportunities for entrepreneurs.
So in some of the areas where our cohort that are focusing on, we have companies that are developing language learning solutions, LMS, digital textbooks, online learning courses, and career and professional development. Many of them are interested in talking to investors. Some of them are first-time entrepreneurs that have never been through the journey of raising capital for a company. I think it would be useful if you could walk us through what the process is like. How to engage with an investor. What do investors expect? And how to approach them? Do you just send them an email and look them up online, or is it a better way to be introduced? What is the process like from the investor perspective?
It's such a tricky process, right? But I would say this: in order to get an investor, so entrepreneurs are mavericks. I mean, you recognize a problem, and you're committed to, you believe in you creating a business out of the problem you're looking to solve. And I think what attracts most investors is, I look at it in three different buckets. One is the entrepreneur, his or herself, right? Are you, how well do you understand your market? It's great that the entrepreneur actually has shared real life experience. So the problem you're solving, the business that you're building, it comes from a challenge that you personally endeavored, deeply rooted personally. And that in itself as an early entrepreneur, because most investors today are investing in the entrepreneur and less of the idea. And so that's number one. So being very clear to the investor that you understand the problem you're solving. I think number two is kind of going back to my earlier point. What is the overall market opportunity for the problem you're tackling? Is it a huge market? I mean, obviously, as an investor, we want to understand the size of the market, because if it's a large market, there's a higher likely chance that we could, one, see an impact on a vast number of students or communities. And from a financial return, we think there can be significant impact to get a financial return on our investment, both on our end, but also for the entrepreneur as well. So understanding the overall market. I think number three is this idea of partnerships. And this is something that's kind of fairly new, and I think there's a fourth bucket there too, of partnerships. I think, those entrepreneurs that are successful, I think, will understand the importance of partnerships. Education it will be difficult to find a unicorn in education, right? And understanding that this entrepreneur is patient. You're working with an investor that is patient, because it will not be tomorrow. It won't be probably 10 to 15 years when you may exit, or when you may go IPO, but it will take some time. So understanding that this is not a sprint. This is a bit of a marathon, and you find that those who are successful are those who are patient, I think. And the last, education is very, it can be political, bureaucratic red tape. And so I think there's this sense of understanding policy, I think, can be a benefit to having a successful company, especially if you're in the K-12 space, particularly. And so that is, in a nutshell, I think, what, as an investor, we look at, and I think would be most helpful for companies to better understand.
And returning to the last point that you just mentioned, that the bureaucratic policy regulatory framework, it can be especially challenging for startups that are coming from abroad and looking to enter US market, that have that are going through customer discovery process, their own markets. They have paying customers in Ukraine, in Poland, or Russia. The US market has different dynamics, especially K-12.
Absolutely.
And there can be a number of barriers to entry. So what would you advise startups that are looking to enter US market if they have customer base in their own country, whether it is in higher education or textbooks or in LMS, but they are interested in getting their first customers in the US? Should they invest in business salesperson? That's a commitment.
Sure.
Should they look for partners, larger EdTech companies that they can integrate in their supply chain?
Sure.
Or if they should just open an office, register company, Delaware Inc., US business? What are some of the best practices that you can share?
That's a good question. I think companies make businesses because they see a need, they see a market opportunity for their business. And more so than most times, it's because that need is in their community. It's where they live. And so some are thinking more macro. So actually, I think it's the company I'm building is large, and it could be useful not just in my community, but in other countries as well. I think when you want to scale or open your business in the US, there can be a likely chance that it can be a very competitive market where there may be other companies that are solving similar problems as you. So the first thing you need to do is do a very, we call it a SWOT analysis or a competitive landscape in the US, because you may find it more strategic to partner with other companies that are solving similar problems in efforts to scale. So figuring out the overall landscape in the US, I think, is number one before you decide to hire or to set up shop, and not do a lick of due diligence on other companies that may exist in the US. So number one is do thorough due diligence and see what other companies are out there that are probably that are building businesses much like yours. The second is, once you've done that, and you, let's say, oh, my platform, my company actually has a unique value to the US market, then I do think it is imperative that you hire someone who, one, believes in your mission, believes and understands your model, and also understands the US market as well. So maybe that's a salesperson or someone who a comms person who can really message your platform quite well, but definitely hiring a U.S. market expert who believes in your product but also understands the U.S. market. And so those are the two areas that I would say I think should be helpful. That early stage entrepreneurs EdTech entrepreneurs that are coming from different countries should consider as a scale to the U.S. market.
Thank you. It's very informative. So why don't you turn to our audience here, and if you have some questions, I see there is a first question that somebody wrote here in the group chat. What is your view about homeschooling market? Have you heard about any success stories of companies targeting this market? Writes Vasil from Mel Science.
Yeah, Vasil, great question. Homeschooling, I less about homeschooling, more about there's a number of companies here in the U.S. that's trying to disrupt the tutoring space, the Uber of. So really, so the incentives of teachers in the U.S., as many of you may know, is not as great as maybe other countries. And I'm a huge believer, I'm sure a lot of us on this call is, that teachers should be compensated, a lot more than they have been. I actually think goes far, there should be laws in place in the way we compensate teachers. And so there's alternative solutions that I know entrepreneurs are tackling today, where if you're an accredited teacher, I forgot the name. I believe it's called, it's like the tutor of, the Uber of tutoring to an extent. It's not homeschooling by stretch, which does still exist. I think that from my understanding and talking with officials at the U.S. Department of Education, homeschooling has actually decreased over the years. And for a variety of different reasons. I think there's you now have online schools that are becoming more and more acceptable in high school. You have, which I think school is so much more than academics, is also a place for development as well. So, and then you have the future of work where you're more and more parents are, looking to become entrepreneurs themselves and, dive into the workforce, but it still exists. But over the past, I would say less than 10 years, homeschooling has diminished over the years. And if you are in homeschool, it's mainly, you come from a family that's more economic, more middle to higher class, less low class, or low class family. So probably doesn't answer your question all the way, but in short, I don't see a huge appetite for homeschooling and if EdTech could play a role, possibly, but you'll be capturing an audience that it's not a huge market, I would say.
That is, you mentioned it's decreasing according to the Department of Education. So
exactly.
So it's not a growing market. It's actually a declining market, right. Market size. Size.
Exactly. And if you're an entrepreneur and if you are living by this creed of doing well by doing good, and at the same time you also want to get the attention of investors. You want to tackle a market that is either large already or growing, or you're creating a new market. And for homeschooling, I'm sorry, I personally don't see that growing over the next 4 years.
One market that is growing, on the other hand, that we see now, there is a proliferation of these online tools, especially for language learning. If you are learning Chinese, you can have a private tutor via Skype-like technology that you can have virtual interactions and in real time and get feedback. And it can be very cost effective. You can hire a tutor now for couple of dollars to teach you Chinese. A couple of dollars per hour. And that opens lots of opportunities for global entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
They don't have to be physically based in the United States to offer services for learning Russian or Polish, or we have some entrepreneurs from Lithuania, from Baltic states in this cohort. It looks like we have a next question here from Bova. What do you think about the future of continuing education market and the role of professional associations in it?
That is a great question, and to my earlier point, the investment appetite over the past 4 years has increased between 30 to 40% as we look at post-secondary, higher ed, into the workforce, adult training, adult training. And so that's not only, and that ranges from low wage workers all the way to the high wage workers as well. I think what we are seeing is that when you think about organizations like Galvanize and General Assembly that are offering these coding boot camp,
Yard and all
this. Exactly. I think they're doing a fantastic job in enhancing the skills of what's coming in the job market in general. There are a number of jobs today that do not exist that will be existing over the next 20 years, and I think we do need outlets or communities or new just training platforms, boot camps that continue to offer training for individuals who are looking to enhance their skills. And in many cases, it's skills that you did not learn in high school or in college. So platforms like General Assembly, I think, will continue to be a large need in the community. So that is a growing market. It's also, I think, a growing market for the employers who can be a huge benefit for this, because employers are saying, I have all these unfilled jobs. Like today, 40% of jobs that are unfilled today are because candidates don't have the right skill sets. And that is a huge indicator that skill sets are, the way students are learning different skills is not up to par. And so we need to rethink the way, we need to enhance the degree, and not only say, Andrew has a 4-year degree from XYZ University, but also has these skills. And so I think there's a large market opportunity for what I like to call curated degrees. Curated degrees are, you have a degree, a 2 to 4 year degree, but you also have experience in the military, or you have experience doing something else. I don't know. But that is rethinking the way we evaluate candidates, and also rethinking the way we train existing workers that helps them increase their chances in moving up in the ranks in the workforce. That is a huge market opportunity for entrepreneurs to really get involved in. I would call that, I would consider that being in the realm of continuing education to the gentleman's question.
Yes, Boba. Yes.
Quick question, Boba.
And yes, professional education is growing. If you look at here in the General Assembly in Washington, D.C., they have been expanding the operations, opening new offices, and an interesting observation that the alumni, the people who graduate boot camp, let's say 14 weeks boot camp in data science, they have guaranteed jobs. They one of the advertisers advertising practice, they mentioned that you will have 95% chance of having being employed, because they looked at what is in demand is for the skills are. They study the local market, what jobs are the mostly in demand, and then they target the programming. So that's an interesting new phenomenon that it sort of transforms this traditional education of getting a degree.
Yeah, so to that point, really quickly, is that you have large corporations signing on and partnering with General Assembly because, General Assembly offers these very niche classes that focus on a very, very specific skill set that's not taught in universities, and unfortunately not taught anywhere outside of universities. And so you have graduates that come out of General Assembly that then get jobs at McKinsey and American Express, and obviously big tech giants, Facebook, Google, Microsoft. So they're definitely redefining and offering this alternative low cost to higher education. But what I will say, that's a need in the general boot camp space. It's for offering better scholarships or incentives, because the reality is what the people that the students at General Assembly is attracting, most of them, over 90% of them, actually already graduated from high, well-known colleges, Harvard's, University of Michigan's, Yale's, etc. Most people in the world cannot come up with $8,000 to $12,000 to $15,000. So they don't do a great job in, I think, reaching the more vulnerable or minority candidates that also are just as well deserving to offer these skill set. I think if they figure out a way to offer more of a low cost scale, scholarships, etc.,
financial assistance,
loans, it levels the playing field. I think you increase diversity in the workforce.
It's a very valid point. These programs are not cheap.
Yeah, they're not cheap. People don't know it.
$15,000.
They're cheaper than college, but still difficult to wrap your arms around.
It looks like Boba had a follow-up question to his previous question. And what about the role of associations? What the role of associations? And a little bit about his startup. He developed a solution that he targets associations and professional development groups that offer educational materials at conferences, and they transform that into online platform, educational platform, through digital tools that he has created. And one of his customer base for him is associations. So what role associations play in professional development, education, continuous education?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there are existing professional development associations or associations in general that support continuing education that it still remains archaic. They're not as technological advanced. They've been around for years. And you can think of a number of different, American Marketing Association.
Washington, D.C. has plenty of those. Probably the only city in the United States that has the largest number of associations for steel producers, associations for steel conductors.
Exactly, from manufacturing to
shoemaker
to white collar roles. I mean, you name it. And I think there is opportunity. I think if you, shamefully, I don't know well enough to give an example of just the lack of technology or the role that Vauveau's platform can play in these associations. I would imagine that if Vauveau, am I pronouncing his name? Vova goes to the American Marketing Association that supports the professional development for those in the marketing advertising space. And Vauveau says, my platform can really, provide better engagement and with high quality, rich curriculum to help really train the next generation of America's marketers, advertisers, PRs. That can possibly be a formal partnership with American Marketing Association. You can correlate this the same example to other associations. So in short, I really believe that I really believe that is what.
Well, right. This is exactly what we do. Thank you very much for your advice.
Awesome.
And I can put you in contact with Bob.
Well, that'd be helpful.
If you would like to learn more about his company. We have another question here from a company called Eximus, from Dmitry Istomin. In your opinion, what U.S. universities are the most successful and powerful in development and using of innovative EdTech solutions? That as ASU, MIT, Harvard, what else?
Great question. So funny you ask. What's his name?
Dmitry.
So I was just on the phone with Michael Moe, the president of ASU, and Michael said to me, he said, Nasir, we run these EdTech accelerator programs at our university, and we've done this intentionally to hopefully partner with entrepreneurs, companies, startups that could hopefully advance our curriculum, hopefully advance the experience for the students. I really haven't found the right entrepreneur. Nasir, can you help us source a number of different companies that can increase the quality, increase the degree, the credential at ASU? And I said, absolutely, because that's what we're working on. And so I say this briefly because we are living in an age today, both in the U.S. and across the world, particularly in the U.S., where the cost of, again, higher ed is not decreasing anytime soon. So I do think you're finding more and more universities that are being more proactive and intentional and thinking of alternative methods to support, create more training to academics for their students. So whether it's MOOCs obviously has been a large push. You have Coursera with Coursera, ASU, University of Southern New Hampshire, Northeastern with their co-op initiative. You have King College in Tennessee that's offering these curated degrees for those in the military and those who want to be in computer science. So really rethinking the package of the degree and encouraging the employers to consider this super diverse way of seeking talent out of college. You're right, MIT, Harvard, I think will always continue to be the premier universities of our country. But I do think there are more and more universities that are rethinking the higher education space. I am biased. Hampton University is doing a fantastic job. You have University of Michigan and Texas, University of Texas in Austin are rethinking the apprenticeship / nano degree general assembly type model, where you can take an a la carte type of courses that's geared towards your specific area of interest, and you don't have to, required courses are not required, which yields today a larger cost in your college degree. So just really putting more emphasis on the ROI, which is what today we're not seeing. You see more graduates that are underemployed meaning that they have a degree, but the job they have today, they didn't need a degree for it. And that's a travesty, because you're not getting your return on investment, and you have to change that.
And at American Council's Adrian and his team are in constant contact with universities. The role this organization plays, American Councils, they have administered a number of programs for State Department, for university exchanges, for language exchanges. And a new trend that we observe is that many universities are becoming entrepreneurial, meaning they open incubators, they encourage entrepreneurship,
Absolutely.
the entrepreneurship centers. So there's not only that you can have like a Y Combinator and a few Techstars and 776,
Yeah.
That now Georgetown has an university incubator, University of Maryland has an university incubator. And these incubators give an opportunity for students that are in engineering or in any field. If they want to experiment and open a business and they want to try building a company, you can do it within also academia. And if you think if university has a law school and they have also accounting school, you can tap into resources of faculty on campus and build a company from the university. There are many companies that have been born at university campus.
Right. You think about, I'm glad you brought that up, Andrew, because 8 years ago, almost 10 years ago, a small company called Facebook was founded, right? And you had Mark Zuckerberg, who left Cambridge to go to Silicon Valley to start his business. Harvard was pissed. They were really upset about that. And what did they do? They said, going forward, we are not going to let another, next iconic, that literally changed the way we communicate and interact with one another, leave. We want to create a space, create a system of support, an incubator, which is why they now have the Harvard Innovation Lab. So the next Mark Zuckerberg will not leave Silicon Valley, right?
They can scale it.
Right, exactly. So we want to reap and indirectly we want to reap the benefits a little bit as well. But I do think that's where that came from. It's that you had so many entrepreneurs who felt that within their university, they did not have this entrepreneurial, they didn't have the resources to be entrepreneurial, to understand, what it took to build the right team or seek investors, like just fundamental things that an early stage entrepreneur needed to become investment ready. And so you do have more and more incubators. I think it's going to continue to expand, and hopefully, there's I'm sure you already have this, where there's some great companies coming out of these university incubators.
And I heard recently someone said that incubators are becoming like new business schools.
Yeah,
That
I believe that.
as difficult to get into Y Combinator as it is difficult to get into Harvard Business School.
And it's difficult to get into Village Capital.
Or Village Capital or Techstars or any
Yeah.
of them. So if you're on the topic on incubators, why don't you talk a little bit about what incubators in the United States
Sure.
are operating in EdTech space?
Sure.
We talk about Village Capital.
Yep.
What are the other players in this market? Many of our startups are interested in applying to programs, and I think some of them will apply into your program.
Absolutely. Please do.
So, which ones would you recommend?
There are a number of different incubator/accelerator programs that have an incredible track record of supporting early stage entrepreneurs and helping them become more investable. I think number one is an incubator called Michelson Runway, which is focused mainly in higher ed. Number two, Learn Launch out of Boston. Number three, K-12 Imagine, which is actually out of Y Combinator. They actually acquired K-12 Imagine.
I'm just going to type it.
Sure. K-12 Imagine. Michelson Runway.
Well, Imagine. I'm trying to.
Learn Launch out of Boston.
Yes, I think you mentioned this.
Another is you have Start Ed out of NYU. Start Ed. You have Learning Edge Ventures. There's also the Towson University Incubator out of Baltimore. And there is 4.0 Schools, which is a very unique incubator out of New Orleans in New York. These are organizations that are supporting entrepreneurs from K-12 all the way through the workforce. Highly recommend. We're all partners. We all support each other's work. So you'll notice very quickly there's a huge overlap between our venture development program in terms of our mentors and our investors and others.
From those that you mentioned, which are the ones that are open for international founders, international startups?
Yeah, I would say most. So Intel, AT&T, and Inspire. Of course, Village Capital, because given that we're global. That's three. Y Combinator as well. K-12 Imagine, based on coming from K-12 Imagine. Those are the main four. There is also Mars out of Toronto that focuses on North America, but they have an open application for international companies. Kaplan, yeah.
You will send the list to our group.
Sure.
We have another question here from Michael Chernishev. Michael asks, if you're talking about online course platforms, what technology is more promising for the US higher education market? First, a platform team creates online courses for university. Second option is university teachers create their own online courses by themselves using an online service that allows them to do it very quickly and efficiently. This startup is developing online course platforms for universities, and they're interested in learning about the US market. And
so integrating online coursework with university curriculum.
With university curriculum.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think there are a number of different platforms that are looking to integrate with current university systems. I think it will need to show just better understand the value add versus existing. I'll be interested to kind of just before I answer, go even deeper, or even just try to answer this entire question. What challenges, Vlad, are you seeing? I'm sorry, who was this?
This was
Michael. What challenges are you seeing, Michael, with the universities not being able to sufficiently with their what value add will your platform bring to university curriculum? I guess is my question.
I will send his. He has a presentation of his company.
Okay.
And we can take that question offline.
Sure.
Someone is asking about blended learning.
Yes.
How big do you think is going to be the impact of blended learning in EdTech?
Yeah, great question. And so blended learning, I just ran like 2 days after the U.S. election, I ran a national education program. I think you were invited.
I recall it was a conflict of timing.
That's what it was.
Couldn't attend.
So we did a national education roundtable focusing on blended learning with K-12. I'm sorry, with the Foundation for Blended Online Learning, FBOL, which is the foundation arm of K-12 Inc., a public company based here in DC. And one of the key messages we shared, mainly one about the opportunity for blended learning to increase equity for all kids, and for most kids, especially those that are come from low-income backgrounds, it enables them to it levels the playing field from an instructional perspective. I think that when we are going to continue to see an increase, and we've seen this a lot every year. I actually I use my own personal capital to visit about 5 districts across the country in the U.S. and get a sense of like what's working, what's not working. And what I'm finding more and more, there are more and more school districts, mainly in urban schools, which is great, and even in rural schools, rural districts as well. That has implemented the blended learning model. And for those of you who are not familiar with blended learning, that is taking a very diverse, interesting approach to learning. So if you were to walk in a classroom, and hopefully you cannot tell where the front of the classroom is, and what you'll see hopefully is maybe 5 or 6 students working on a short quiz. Another group is working on a collaborative project, and then it leaves more time for that teacher to support students that are either a little bit behind in the lesson. So taking this personalized adaptive learning approach by creating a blended learning classroom that really makes classroom engagement a little bit more collaborative. And so instead of walking into a classroom and exactly where from the classroom is, and it's pretty much your traditional archaic school model. So to your question, yes, there is an increase in blended learning, personalized adaptive learning in the U.S. market. I'm happy offline to share a number of different platforms that have been implemented today and have actually achieved some great traction, Series A+ that you could, I'm sure, aspire to focus on.
Thanks, Nasir. Another question that we have from our group of startups comes from Vlad Golushchuk, who is the founder of Practice Rocks. And Practice Rocks offers interactive solutions for online training. Mm-hmm. And his question is, Vlad writes here, thank you for your insights. Nasir, could you share your thoughts on the ways to sell online courses more effectively, especially those that help closing professional skills gaps in applications like Excel, Photoshop?
Sure.
Do you think partnering with local training centers could be beneficial?
Sure. So this is a great conversation because I think there are a number of different online courses that do not tackle our most needed market. So I think the demand is there. I think where the supply is going is not as evenly distributed as it should be. And so to your point, yes, I think if you were to partner with a prison system to help re-entry citizens increase their increase their job options. I think there's a huge, there's a huge conversation here in the U.S. to support reentry citizens, for example, that will help them with basic skills. If it is, the older adult who has, worked in, this same job for 30 plus years, or, super administrative job for 30 plus years, that job is probably either going to become automated, or that person may not even have the skills to advance. And so the opportunity for interactive online courses to play a major role there are, and I guess, so the question is, Nasir, like, who do you partner with? Well, you can partner with, I think that's where partnering directly with corporations can come into play. So you are increasing current professional development at the expense of the corporation. The purpose of most HR and professional development is to ensure that we're retaining high quality, retaining current employees, but also offering continuously professional development for those employers. And too often we're not supplying the right training, especially for those that are maybe in not as technological advanced, or may not have certain skills. So I think there's a number of different pockets for.
So the background about Vlad's company, Practice Rocks. Vlad is a software developer, software engineer. He's based in Dublin, in Ireland, and he noticed that online courses for learning software tools, software applications like Photoshop or Python or any software, Python, any programming language, they're often boring. They're not interactive. You just go through these exercises and you watch videos. So his solution makes it more interactive, more engaging, and also those who administer those courses, they can see how students perform, and whether they are actually going through the exercises, and it gives feedback. So partnerships are very important to bring this to the market. I think for if you look at some of the case studies of the most successful startups that scale fast, they usually partnered with whether it is larger EdTech companies that they integrate in their supply chain, or they were able to find a very particular customer segment through a network, and having developed partnerships.
Yeah, and that was my third bucket, by the way. When the question earlier, everyone was asked, what, Nasir, what do investors, what are the key signals or signs investors want to see in early stage startups? Is number 3 is partnerships. Like, how well do you understand your market, and who else? Because we want to see you again either disrupting a market or really finding a way to scale. And one way of scaling is partnering with either larger organizations or getting investments or getting more investment to scale your team to impact the masses. So partnerships is very, very critical. And I think if you can partner with a larger organization, an existing corporation, that will, in this case, enhance professional development, that makes it more exciting and engaging, to your point, because you're right, I think most is quite boring. Then I think it can be super beneficial to both the entrepreneur as he or she scales, but also the corporation and their employers.
Yes, thank you. We have a couple more questions before we finish our webinar. Vasily Filipov asks a question. Nasir, what is your view about using VR in schools? From your point of view, what is the time frame when VR technology is widely used by the US schools? Vasily from Mel Science. And Adrian Erlinger from American Councils, who is traveling.
Adrian, yes.
And he couldn't be here today because of a traveling commitment. Yeah. And he's typing a follow-up here. Is there a tech gap to bring in VR into schools?
Yeah. So there's a company I'm looking at now called AugThat that's looking to revolutionize the textbook, and I think there is an opportunity for VR, Adrian, to really play a major role in the classroom. I think today when you look at textbooks, it's like you're reading, you're comprehending, you're reading, but now you can, with AugThat, for example, you kind of hover over the textbook or hover over the textbook, and there's an option to hover over your iPad, and the 3D images like pretty much come out at you, and they depending on if you're looking inside of if it's a science project and you use the AugThat platform to hover over a heart. It's like you can literally go inside and analyze the heart, and I don't know. So it becomes more interactive for students to better understand the lesson, and instead of waiting for field trips. Obviously field trips will continue to be important, but overall, Adrian and others, I don't see many K-12 schools forming partnerships with companies like AugThat and other VR companies. I think so. So the question is there a market opportunity to enhance the quality of the learning experience in the classroom? I would say yes, huge opportunity. I think if we, and I think you can, really clearly share to investors why there is both a demand, which I think is fairly easy to share, but also a market opportunity. I think it's worth building a business out of.
And when talking to investors, what do they look for? Like many investors are looking at, do you have paying customer base, and what is room to scale? Do you have testimonials? So it's important also to gather customer feedback if it's positive,
right,
and then document that well in the presentation. In reviewing some of the pitch decks from our cohorts, we see that English is the second language, and it's a challenge. And communicating and describing the positive feedback that we receive from our customers, sometimes it's a barrier.
Right.
So we are working with our group here to get those messages, positive testimonials from customers in those presentations. And it's a process. Some of them are early stages, some of them are already a little bit farther in their development. We have 2 more questions, and I think we will be finishing up in about.
Before we get to, can I say that this is great, and I think just far too often that we don't take a step back, and I think this conversation is so timely as we can dive into the holiday season and begin to level up for 2017. And when we look at our most pressing challenges in the world, especially in our emerging markets in Eastern Europe and everywhere, I think entrepreneurs, startups will play a critical role. And so it's great that entrepreneurs are taking time out this morning today. I'm not sure, it's 7 hours, 10 hours?
7 hours. Depends where. The ones that are in Dublin, in Ireland, the ones that are in...
They're 5, 7. Yeah, I've been to both those countries. They're taking a step back in order to really think thoughtfully about how do I build an effective, scalable business. And, we're not going to figure out those questions today, but I do want to, this is giving me more energy to say, we're doing the right thing and scaling to Eastern Europe. And so I want to commend you, Andrew and Adrian and Ivan for your leadership and introducing us, bringing us all together.
We are very glad to have you join. And next time we will have Adrian and the team, the American Council. My role is an advisor to the program.
Got it.
Very great to see you here.
Of course. Miss you, Adrian.
And
a couple more questions.
Yes. So we have a question from Misha from a company called Brainify. Nasir, do you see an opportunity in online coaching market in the US? Services such as Coach.me. So this company, they offer a solution for career-changing professionals who are interested in more like coaching for professional growth. If somebody is not happy with their job and they want to move to a different career path, their solution is more like an online network of coaches.
Yeah. I honestly think, and this is nothing against Coach.me, Misha. Is it Misha?
Yes, Misha.
I've seen an incredible amount of companies operating in this space. I personally, I can be proven wrong, and I'm happy to jump on a phone call with you in the coming year, that it's a bit of a crowded market. And so it would be interesting to hear how you're differentiating yourself to other players in this space. And so to that, I would say it would, for me at least, it would be difficult to fundraise from a venture capital perspective. And it doesn't seem like this could be a venture-backed company. You can actually run and build a number of different partnerships, maybe with. This also looks like more of a B2C, less of a B2B. I may have this wrong, but most of the companies in this space are B2C, and they struggle, Misha, with having paying customers who actually pay for this because maybe the pricing is a challenge. I'm not sure, but it is a need. It is a demand. I just can't really get a sense of the model. So do I see an opportunity? I see a demand. I don't see an investment opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And last question that we have comes from Rostislav Olenchin, who's based in Ukraine. Nasir, we are a startup developing a service that automates a coaching process for basic mistakes in holding a presentation. This solution helps you be a better presentation skills.
Okay.
Better. You are practicing through VR. They developed a VR solution. It's scenario-based simulation VR. So they have a secret sauce technical solution it's especially difficult for foreign language speakers, for those who English is a second language, to practice good articulation, speaking clearly, distinctly in English. So this is an interesting solution, and I think there is demand for this in Ukraine, where he's based. I actually had a chance to meet Rostislav in Ukraine, and so his question is: do you believe this solution could be added to flipped classroom process for eliminating routine work of the teacher when a student performs exercises and receives assessment and guidance before interacting with his trainer?
That's an interesting approach. I'd be interested. It seems like the customer is in the K-12 space, or is
I think it's K-12 and also professional development.
So in the workforce as well.
Workforce, yes.
From a K-12 perspective, I see that being interesting. I think it's imperative that kids are learning presentation skills a lot earlier than they did when they're. I'm not sure about you, but I took a class in presentation, oral communication skills, and a class in college. So I think there definitely could be an opportunity to form a partnership with a school district here in the U.S. There's definitely a demand in the workplace. Again, I think that sounds like more of a B2C. It could be a B2B, corporations that value the importance of presentations, whether it's a sales team that requires a salesperson, you're always required to give a presentation. So having a third party to help advance the skills of their sales team, I think can be interesting. But like the other, like Misha, I see a demand. However, this does not seem at least right now, and I'm sure I'm missing a whole bunch in this model. I don't get a sense this is an investment opportunity quite yet. So we'll be interested to kind of understand just the overall model and how is this entrepreneur looking from a forecasting perspective later down the line as an investor.
Revenue model.
What's the revenue model exactly? Yeah.
So do we have any more questions? Let's see if we can try to bring in Adrian on this call. Adrian, I'm going to unmute Adrian.
Yes, I'm here.
Just to say a few final remarks and thank you very much, Nasir, for sharing your insights.
Can you all hear me?
Oh, hello, Adrian. You're here.
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nasir, for joining us today. I've taken copious notes, and I think each of the questions that were asked are really important. Just to kind of wrap up on the previous questions, you may not see an investment opportunity for online coaching or this coaching process presentation skills just yet. You know, I'm thinking here maybe there is a market opportunity in their home market.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this goes back to your original point about the strategy. And so while the strategy may not necessarily be to look for a venture-backed approach, maybe it is revenue building.
Mm-hmm.
So, I encourage all of our participants to continue this conversation. And certainly we'd like to look at each of these points and your answers in a lot more detail. So we have this written down, and we will be happy to work with each of you to follow up on each of these. You also mentioned some statistics regarding homeschooling. I think that's a great idea. We can provide this to Mel Science and do similar activity for the others. So Thank you again.
Adrian, very, very welcome. And again, I'm really, really thrilled that we remain friends and we're able to support more companies. It sounds like you guys are larger than you were last year.
We are glad to be working together to raise the tide of EdTech innovation. I think and we will continue our conversation with you and Village Capital on how we can further engage and to support EdTech entrepreneurs from Eastern Europe and from Europe.
And you're in touch, and hopefully you'll introduce Adrian to Chris Cusack.
We met with Chris when he was here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, cool.
He worked on your team in DC previously, right?
Yes, he's now in London.
Yes.
He's now in London.
So with that, I think we will conclude our part of the presentation for the participants. Again, Nasir, we couldn't be more thankful to you for taking time from your schedule and sharing your valuable insights and strategic guidance for the cohort. And we American Councils will be bringing a selected group of startups in a couple of months next year from the all cohort. We will be narrowing down the list to 5-6 startups, founders that will come here to Washington, D.C. for a visit to meet with potential partners, investors, also customers.
Absolutely.
So we will keep you posted. We'll let you know what the dates are, and we look forward to having more cooperation.
Sure. And shameless plug here, if you are interested in applying for our next Accelerator Venture Development Program in 2017, applications will open mid-January for a very short period of time, because we would like to save more time at the end of the year for more broader entrepreneurial engagement for our alumni. And so I will send the link to Andrew and to send to you and Adrian as well. So to give make sure you guys get a swing at the plate and are offered an opportunity to apply to our program. So
absolutely, this will be Village Capital. They do a great job. The peer review is very unique and it's very interactive, a very engaging program. And so we will send this to our cohort once we get that email. And thanks a lot, everybody, and have a good evening in Europe. And we will be in touch.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy
Take care.
holidays.